My name's Bob Jones. This is podcast number 1 of Job Things with Coach Bob. Today's segment's going to be called, this will be the title of the podcast, A Job, a Good Job, or a Great Job. A little about me. I grew up in Natick, Massachusetts, outside of Boston, and attended GW University, Go Colonials, in Washington, D.C., getting an electrical engineering degree. Right after graduation, I joined the U.S. Navy submarine program, served 6 years, 4.5 years on a fast attack submarine as an engineer and as an officer. I was deployed out of Norfolk, Honolulu, and New London, Connecticut to the Atlantic, Pacific, and the Mediterranean Sea. I have over 20 years as a technical and professional recruiter, corporate and freelance in the intel, defense, software, and technology for large corporations and small businesses. I have close to 20 years coaching hundreds and hundreds of people, mostly professionals and executives, with the only exception being that I really didn't coach healthcare professionals like doctors and nurses, not many blue collar or union workers, and I never did high finance people from New York City. But other than that, I've coached pretty much every variation and people with all kinds of background. When I engage as a coach, my overall goal was to reduce the time of the transition, increase the revenue or salary, and reduce the pain or discomfort of transition. My ideal time frame when I was coaching would to have somebody start a job within 2 to 5 months and last at least 2 or 3 years. Job transition, as you know, and many of you that be listening, is hard, but many of my clients have been very successful. And the reason that is, and I'm not boasting at all, but these are the things I've just implemented. We bring best practice using my subject matter expertise to apply it to the individual person. We customize it to each client or individual I'm working with. And we have a spirit of doing a grind, which is just like a daily and weekly grind. Usually it's weekly, but things you do every week to get yourself better, to be a top candidate, to interview well, to find the right interviews, to network correctly, eventually to get a great job. This mindset is what I want to regularly bring to the podcast. The format of the podcast is we're going to go over a topic. This week, it's going to be what is a job, a good job, and a great job. We're going to have a question and answer period. I have some questions that I have actually, there's a friend from Ford up in Detroit. Hey, Joe. I have question and answer period where people can send in questions. I'm going to regularly have guest speakers. I'll probably have Joe Skronik now. He's a top recruiter with Ford. Interview them. And I'll also have people that have been candidates with me. I'll go over a summary and try to kind of go over just roughly what we learned during the podcast. I'd also do a small giveaway, which basically will be something related with job and career transition. This week, I'm going to give away the topic, kind of an overview of the topic called A Great Job, the 8 Characteristics of a Great Job. So anyway, I'm going to get into the content right now, and then after that, we're going to go into the Q&A. So today, I wanted to talk about a great job. A lot of people ask me this, is like they don't like their job. They don't even realize what makes up a great job. And I make it up, I set it up into 8 different areas: skills, values, salary, responsibility, location, special knowledge, culture and environment, like-mindedness, and coverage. So I'll go over those quickly. I'm not going to give examples for each one. You guys are welcome to ask questions or send me emails. My email is bob@bobjonescoaching.com. My producer, if you type that in, that would be great. So skills. A great job is made up of 8 components. So one of them is skills. Your skills are required, used, and encouraged. The second is values. Your personal values or interests are in alignment with the business. Salary. Your earnings are, you're happy with the earnings, short term and long term. Responsibility. You are at the right level of responsibility. Special knowledge. You have special knowledge in this industry or business. Culture. You work in a culture and environment that matches yours and the one you like to work in. Like-mindedness. This is kind of an interesting one. People you work with and the people you work for get along with or generally think like you, not clones, but similar. Doesn't mean we have to all look alike or all do the same things, but we kind of have the same attitude, work ethic. And I use this as an example: work ethic, big picture, morals, values, pace, and communication style. Coverage, and this is one I added on a while ago. I'm sorry, I said 8. I have 9 listed. I added this 9th one on a while ago. You have coverage. One of the key things to having a great job is having a supervisor or manager who truly supports you, not in just words but in action. So again, great job is made up of skills, values, salary, responsibility, location, special knowledge, culture, like-mindedness, and coverage. Now, a great job. So we're talking about a great job. A good job would be one that has probably 5 or 6 of these. So you might not have the location you want. You might not have the salary. There might not be the perfect culture, but it's using your skills, your values are right, your salary's right. So again, you take this list, which I'll provide it to you if you weren't able to write it down, and you kind of can evaluate where you are. You might be in a good job and you don't even know it. And then just a normal job might be just 2 or 3 of these. They're basically paying you to do something you do well, and it's at the right location, but you don't have a culture you like. You aren't like-minded with the people you're with. You have no supervision that's actually taking care of you, or poor supervision. I've seen many people throw out a good job that could become a great job just because they have poor management. And instead of waiting or internally navigating their job to find a great job within the organization, they just leave. And so anyway, that's kind of the topic I went over. I'm actually trying to remember how long I've been talking. My producer is a great guy named Jonathan Justin. Oh, 8 minutes. Okay, great. So what I think I'm going to do is I actually sent the links. We're going to start the Q&A period, and I actually had some great conversations today with a couple of people from all over the East Coast, actually, nobody from the West Coast. And what happened was recruiter.com sends me resumes, I think once a week. And I'd actually been emailing them sometimes and text them, and they never responded. But today I called them to see if people would call in with questions or send in questions. And I actually got 5 people that I talked to said they're going to send me questions. I just send them links. I don't know if they're going to join the links or not. It doesn't look like anybody's joining, but I'm going to go ahead and give you a quick kind of overview of the person and the questions they have. Hopefully they'll be able to see this eventually. This is a gentleman named Paul. He's in New York. He's on the island. He's a senior sales guy, and he's actually worked in banks. He has a university degree, but he's a salesperson and done business development. And his question was, how can I tell if the company is not interested in me when you're interviewing? So he was telling me of a scenario where he could tell, he kind of felt like they were just he was asking the right questions, but they were dismissing him near the end of the conversation. And so this was his questions he asked me. And what I would have said was, how long was your interview, Paul? Was it short? A good interview is usually 30 to 45 minutes, and the people are interested in you, leaning in they're actively listening to your conversation. And was it an interview with a group or was it with an individual? Recruiters tend to be kind of short and don't really pay attention. Recruiters aren't critical. You just have to make sure you don't give them a lot of red flags. You want the recruiter to push you forward to the hiring manager interviews. And I really try to read the body language of the person interviewing me, and I keep my answers short, not really. I try to keep it shorter than you would want so that you can get them to speak 55 to 60% of the time. So they might say, like for Paul, where you're selling, he had sales, city network sales, and you know, what was your quota? And then you might ask, Paul might ask, oh, what is your quota? And he might say, well, my quota is this, but I exceeded the quota. He might say, do you use the same kind of quota system in your company? And it allows them to respond and talk about it. People love to talk about themselves. It's just a general thing. The other thing is likability. Most people go into an interview thinking that they're trying to prove they know something and avoid making mistakes, where honestly, the first thing you should do is try to be likable. There's a lot of different parts to that, but generally, knowing the person you're in, you can almost always get information on the person you're interviewing with before you interview. And most people don't spend enough time researching who the person is, where they lived. You can tell if they have a family, don't have a family, if they're highly educated, not educated, and they've been there a long time, a short time. So you can ask very simple questions. You know, a lot of times I look at the university they went to, were they prior military, did they grow up overseas? You just kind of ask questions of things they like or they're interested in, almost as an icebreaker before you even start the interview. And always kind of do it with some level of humility so that they know they're in control of the conversation. Again, 55 to 60% is a good metric for letting them actually, though they're interviewing you, they should be speaking to most of the time. I always follow up with a follow-up email. I'm really still addressing your question, Paul, but I follow up with a follow-up email and a thank you. I actually like people asking at the end of the conversation or the interview, how did I do? What are the next steps? A lot of people have trouble doing that. I think that's a very fair question to ask. And then the thing that we'll probably talk about the week after, the next week is a holiday week. In 2 weeks, we're going to talk about how we use, I think it's AI. Uh, where are the jobs and how to use ChatGPT will be podcast number 2. Podcast number 3, I'm going to talk about referrals. A majority of the jobs nowadays are through referrals, and we're going to go over that in podcast number 3. So a lot of people will interview and they'll be the bridesmaid. They'll be like number 2. Well, you're a great person. We'll keep you in mind, but you're number 2. And that's because most companies don't hire people that randomly apply. They use them. They're required by law to post the interview for so long if their company is a certain size. So most recruiting is done internally or through referrals. And we're going to go in more depth on that on week number 3. One of the things I'd say to Paul right away, again, kind of going back to the start, is make sure you do your homework, meaning do your research on the person you're interviewing with. Sometimes I recommend people even to call into the company and talk to people. How is that group? Did they fire someone? Did they not fire someone? Why are they interviewing? I asked the recruiter, before you even talk to the hiring manager, I'd say, well, why are they interviewing for that? Is it a replacement? Is it a new job? Know if the company's growing or not. So anyway, that's a long-winded response for Paul's question of how can you tell if they're interested or not interested in you? Normally, honestly, if you're a high-functioning salesperson like Paul, if he felt like they weren't interested in him, they probably weren't interested in him. So he kind of told me that from the beginning. So great job, Bob. That was a good answer. You're welcome. You're welcome. All right, now we're going to go into a question from Julian. Sorry, these guys aren't, and these women aren't calling in. I sent the link to them, but I haven't seen them get on yet. So I can look real quick to see if they text me back on my other email account. Nobody's emailed me back. So I'll do this better next week. I understand it a little better the week after next. We'll do it better. My producer gave me a thumbs up. So Julian, I want to say I'm using first name. I really want to maintain a level of anonymous, or it's anonymity, or it's the word basically for being anonymous. I'm not really good with that word, but so that people can call in and ask questions and not worry about what people think and stuff. And my producer is laughing at me. That's awesome. Okay, but anyway, Julian is from Virginia, and he has a position. He's fairly new as a professional. He was doing retail before. He has 2 years as a professional as a technical assistant, administrative assistant. Looks like he did really well. His resume had some good highlights in it. And he sent me it. It was really kind of cool talking to him. He said, Bob, I've been in my position for 2 years now. So I meet the time requirements to move up or to change jobs. How do I make myself look more attractive within the organization or outside the organization? And one of my first questions would be, Julian, are you another gentleman I know, Robert Pace? Hey, Robert, how you doing? It's nice seeing some people listening. I'm not just talking to Jonathan. He's very used to my voice. So Julian asked, how do I make myself more attractive to other companies or organizations? And one of my first question would be, do you want to stay there or not? Or do you think there's opportunities there? So I'm going to assume he does want to stay. And I'm kind of I kind of thought through the answers, but I didn't like spend an hour thinking about the answers. I call it just blocking and tackling. If you have a job, he's new in his job. He needs to find the best person in his current job and make sure he does his work at the same level as that person. The best way to do that is not to actually talk to that person and ask them a lot of questions, but is actually to befriend the person, become their friend, show yourself friendly, and you'll have many friends. Befriend the person and learn from them, more glean from them, from maybe going to lunch with them, talking with them, learning what their favorite hobbies are, chatting with them about, like, I'm a big Ravens fan. The Ravens are on now. I love this if I'm not watching the Ravens. And so befriend the person to learn what it takes to be great at his job there, and look at other people that have been promoted in the similar categories him, or like whether it's project coordination, or it's project manager, whether it's a senior admin, senior technical project manager, project leader, and see what kind of certifications and degrees the people have. I know I'm pausing, first time I've really paused. And also, kind of back to the beginning, is what does he want to do? What direction does he want to go? More administrative, more technical? Does he want just more scope and responsibility? Another way to advance is to his boss and his boss's boss, when he does a good job at the right time, ask for a letter of recommendation and have that as he goes and talks to people. Not look for even internal advertisement in companies for positions, but go talk to the groups and see about opportunities. And then at that point, have a strong resume and communicate a good resume with good stories about his experience and letters of recommendations. I think that's really a good. That's a great answer, Bob. That would make him attractive, and he can apply the same things as he looks externally. He needs to see what the next level up, whether it's technical project manager, technical project leader, senior administrative, what those people have, certifications, training, what kind of experience they show. You can Google resumes of the same positions. You can also look in LinkedIn for people with similar backgrounds, and then even reach out to those people on LinkedIn and talk to them about it. How did they get that advanced position? For most people, you'll get about a 15 to 20, around 15 to 17% response rate if you query people with the same background as you and have a short conversation with them. Have a call with them, 30 minutes. And then even if you can go see them, go see the people, because you always learn more when you're in person with them. So that's how I do that. Julian was quite a gentleman. It was really nice talking to him. I'm saving my toughest question for the last. So I've got this one's a softball question, so I'm going to take this one kind of to boost my ego a little bit. This is from Ian. He's from the country that we share a common language with, but we're divided by an ocean, the United Kingdom originally, but he's here working as an accountant. He's actually located in New York. And his question was, should I use the resume I had written in the UK or have it rewritten in the US? How do I explain gaps in my employment? So it's kind of a softball question for, in general, it's a softball question, which I appreciate. Definitely rewrite it for the US. Accomplishments translate because obviously we're in the same language. Now, there is a little more. One of the things I think about with accounting, because accounting can be accounting firms, but it can be industry specific, manufacturing, it can be um, government contracting, it can be healthcare. So you need to know the language of the industry you're applying for. Darn if ChatGPT isn't good for that. You could put the resume in it and the free version. I actually have the paid version, but the free version, and have it change the language for that industry. And you can show it examples, like you can bring an example of a healthcare resume of the same accountant, bring your resume in, and it'll actually help you position the words correctly for that. That's kind of a teaser for my next podcast in 2 weeks. But I would do that. Gaps in employment aren't nearly as important as they used to be, partly because of COVID, partly because we have dual income. You came from another country. I never, resume is not a legal document, so I don't over explain things. It's basically a door opener. It needs to have plenty of veracity or truth in it, but it's not a legal document. You're not going to have to put your hand on, and say this is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So some gaps, if they're short periods, sometimes I would extend them to the previous job or the current job. Or there's a lot of things you can do with that, but I don't worry about gaps in employment nearly as much as they used to 10 years ago because of kind of the way the world's right now. And there's some of the things he should add because things that wouldn't be in the UK that might be here. He needs to know what the current software is. Like it might, there's like wording, I don't have it at the top of my head, but that accountants use. Gap training. There's all different kinds of trainings and certifications and associations that he should have on his resumes in the US that will help show he knows how to do accounting in the US, even if it's very similar. Sometimes when I was talking to, oh my gosh, someone's selling me something on my, my, I'm doing a broadcast and someone's like spamming me a sales thing. I'm like, awesome, brother. Sounds like you need a job. Um, my producer is losing his mind laughing. Um, so, so what I'd say is, so you're a project manager, you work for a large manufacturing company. They, the company you're applying to requires a project management certification. So it's so easy to get certifications nowadays. You can go online, PMI, Project Management Institute. You can start the course and finish it in 2024 and actually put it on there. PMI, Project Management Institute, PMP, their certification, say September 2024. That's not lying. You started the course, you're getting it. A lot of times recruiters are just looking for that word because their hiring manager says they've got to have a PMT certification. Even if you say certification in 2024 and they have a lot of experience, a lot of times a hiring manager will take them knowing them that they're going to get it and they're going to check that box. So Ian, hopefully you get to listen to this. I would try to look at some other account, like I said on some of the other questions. I would look at some other senior accountant resumes of people working in the industry you're looking at and kind of mirror those. I saw you had Sage on there. That's again a European version of QuickBooks. Nobody's going to know what Sage is. There's very few people who know what that is, but I would use as much terminology that we use in the great country, United States of America. Um, so anyway, that's Ian. That was great. And now the tough question. I always leave the hardest for the last. Hopefully, you guys are with me. And the last one is AJ. He is actually another New Yorker, which is great. I love New York. He's a senior program executive, a leader in I call it tier one corporation. I'm not going to tell you what kind of a technology company, but it's a tier one. In my world, tier one is the top of the line. When we were on submarines, we were the guys with the missiles and doing missions right where the war was. We were right there. So I call that a tier one company. So this is a tier one company. He asked me a very tough question. It was tough enough that I had to look up his question because I didn't understand it. So it tells you kind of what's happened. He asked me, great question. He said, "Thank you, Bob, for reaching out. Question: in today's world of generative AI, what are the few things would a seasoned professional bear in mind to achieve success and move to the next while maintaining user trust?" So this is from when I was learning a foreign language. What you do is you circle the words as you read it to try to understand the question. AJ, it was a good question. What he's saying is generative AI, which is generative AI is artificial intelligence capable of generating text, images, media, or other user-generated models. So basically, his question, and he repeated it by saying maintaining a user's level of trust. So, and when looking for jobs, you can use all the AI you want, the tools to help you get to where you want, whether it's rewriting things, finding clients, and I think it's good to have a knowledge of it, especially in whatever industry or profession you're whether you're accounting, sales, technical, coder, software, um, administrative, HR. You should know what the current trends are. That's one thing I haven't mentioned yet, but I usually know the trends, even in the coaching industry. I know the trends right now in a lot of areas. So AI is really the internet of when I was young, and to know how it applies in the job and career process as you move forward is very important. But it still comes down to your subject matter expertise, your ability to communicate, and your ability to tell compelling short stories in a star format, situation, task, and action result as you interview and move forward with looking at people as you get leads of people looking for work, not through advertisements, but by networking and using referrals. So it's a great question. It's something I do think about a lot, and I try to stay current on pretty much everything around the trending things. I'm not super knowledgeable on crypto, but I am very knowledgeable on blockchain, which is the backbone to cryptocurrency. I am a nerd at heart with two engineering degrees. So that really wraps up. I don't have any questions that did. Oh, Julian. Julian's yeah.
Maybe I'll. Do you want to throw Julian online and see if
Yeah, go ahead.
he's there?
That's all right. I know Julian. So
Yeah. So he was on just now, but he's gone. Sorry. You can continue. Hello, everybody.
it's so rude of you to interrupt me. Um, everything I say is gold. I can I'm twitching with all the excitement. So today I'm going to do a quick summary. A great job. You need to understand if you are in a great job or a good job, and be thankful for what you have, not what you don't have. Sometimes instead of changing jobs, you might want to use your same skill in another area just to make additional money or do something completely different to generate revenue if it's money related. If it's not, you know, realize you're going to have to compromise. Some people, especially in smaller towns in the Midwest that have to work full time, they have to compromise one of those nine. I said eight, but it's actually nine characteristics to keep a good job. So I think people in smaller cities appreciate their jobs more, even when they don't have all those things. But I come from a large city and from the East Coast. I expect everything to be great everywhere I go. So I'm not easily pleased. So the next podcast, which I know you're biting to know when it is, will be after Thanksgiving. It'll be November 30th. So the week after Thanksgiving, November 30th. We're going to talk about where are jobs and how to use Chat GPT. So in summary, and I forgot to mention this, in summary, we had four questions. One was on AI and how it plays a role in today's job hunting place. A gentleman asked me about his resume and translating it from one country to another, kind of, and also, and I kind of focused on the importance of industry experience and industry terminology relative to that job. One gentleman asked me how he did when he interviewed. I think he already knew, but I think there's other things he could do to be ahead of that before he actually interviews. The younger professional who had just finished 2 years, we talked about some of the main things he could do to be attractive and to get the next position he wants. Podcast number two is going to be where are jobs and how to use ChatGPT. That's November 30th. Podcast number three, you're not going to want to miss. It's one of my favorite topics. It's about referrals, and I call it a secret power. I know there's a lot of Marvel fans out there, and this is a secret power you will get if you. It'll be a great short topic that I discuss. I want to thank Jonathan. Hopefully, he'll stay with me at least for 3 or 4 broadcasts because I just like seeing his smiling face. He actually does stand-up comedy, and I'm not going to mention where he is until he's with me for the 3rd or 4th session. I want to thank all you listeners and my family. Please email me at bob@bobjonescoaching.com if you have any questions or comments. I'd love any comments. And I look forward to talking to you all next time. I'm going to be able to send the link well ahead of time next week to the people participating. I'll help them navigate that better. So we'll have more live call-ins. And I actually had people asking me to call in, but I didn't know how to do it really quick. But I'll have that figured out by next time. So thanks again for everything. And you guys have a great night and go Ravens. Okay.